Welcome, I'm Darren, and I'll be your guide today as I look at the best insert cards of the 1960s. The 1960s is a really fun time because this was kind of your 7, 8, 9-year-old time when you were just doing really weird stuff all over the place. One day you were climbing a mountain, another day you were president of the United States, and then you're an athlete, you're a Super Bowl winner, or you're winning the World Series, or you're winning a race, or all sorts of crazy stuff. And none of it really makes sense. You're just playing around with some ideas. That's what the 1960s was in cards. Cards were just starting to really turn into something of substance. And they were playing around, and it was a pinball machine of ideas all over the place. And that's what makes this list really kind of interesting, because they hardly did anything more than twice. So you have 2 different stamps, you have 3 different tattoos, you have a couple of different stickers. All of these little things were not progressed over time and evolved. It was, you try a little something here, try a little something there. And so what was the worst and what was the best? And for the best, part of what you're looking at is these crazy ideas they just kind of created that popped out there like one time, maybe twice. And maybe they worked, maybe they didn't, who knows, but they're a lot of fun. That's really what a lot of these are. They're a lot of fun, and on rare occasions they actually made something that itself was just extremely well made. So this is fun because of the fact that it is all over the place. But it does get a little tricky trying to figure out, all right, so what is the best? Stamps, for instance, are not on this list because, while it's a great idea and the stamps do look good, as a collector, I look at it and I go, well, yeah, they're nice, but I'm not driven by them. I'm not drawn to them. I'm not intrigued by them. They had their place, they had their role, and it's part of what makes the 1960s so great. I also don't have any tattoos on here because, tattoos are tattoos for kids. That's nice. Some of them look nice, some of them don't. But for me, I'm really drawn to either the sheer creativity or, to an extent, the quality. And so that's what this list is going to be looking at, the top 5 as well as the honorable mention. And quality is kind of the way to start with this, so I'm going to start with the honorable mention with the 1968 Topps game. This is, they would do something similar with football a couple of years later. The game it's okay, but it's really well made. That's what's nice about it, is it really is a nice, very well made card. I'm not really intrigued by the game itself, but the picture on the card is very good, and I'm kind of torn with the fact that they don't have the player's name on the front or on the back, but they have the player's signature that acts as the name. So, props to them for that, but it's a really interesting creation in that way. So I like it, but I like it again because of the quality, because it really did come out as a well-crafted card. And in the same way, 1969 Topps Decal is my number 5, which, again, it's just a really well-made card. Now, the Topps Decal, unlike the card game, which is its own little affair with the rounded corners, it looks like it's supposed to be almost like an Uno card. In the case of Topps Decal, this is just a very, very, very well-made insert card. It's a glossy card. It has a black and white image on it. It has a really cool autograph on the front. That's the name on the front. On the back, you have a little bit of information. But on the card front, the blue autograph makes it look like it's literally an autograph, which is a cool quality. Everything's black and white except for the autograph. That was a great move that they made. But what really makes this card interesting is the decal treatment around the outside. Now, decal treatment is a way that they used to cut photographs. And I assume that it was kind of like lace. That was the idea. So it was supposed to be a fancy version of photographs at this era. But for me, growing up, this was always these old photos, and they would come out. It's almost like they're dog-eared in a way, but dog-eared in a fancy way as opposed to worn down over the years. And so that's, for me, that's kind of always the way that it looked, was that this was old, and that was just the treatment of old stuff in the past. And that's what these cards now have. So at the time, I think it was supposed to be just really fancy, but here, now it makes it really unique, extremely unique for the detailing. And the decal is a nice treatment to have on the outside. It's well made. Everything is curved around. It's very intentional. You can see the pattern in it. So it works well in that way, mainly because it is a very clean, very straightforward image. And so for me, I put it on this list simply because it is too nice. It's not exciting, but it is extremely nice. So for me, kind of the 2 at the end, I have to give a nod to great craftsmanship. The rest of these are a lot more fun, or fun in various ways, and especially when I get down to number 4 here at 1969 Topps Football 4-in-1. This is one of those rare discoveries that you look and you just go, wow, that's going to be a lot of fun. It really is. What they did was they made a recreation of all the cards, or more significantly, they didn't make recreations of the cards, but they made miniature versions of the cards that are inspired by the cards more than anything else. And they did them as stamps, so there's no card back, and even on the card front, everything's so small, it's just a straightforward portrait of the player's name. That's basically about all there is to it. And then they were shrunk down to almost a quarter size, and then 4 on each panel, which is why they're called 4-in-1s. And then because they have an adhesive back, they work basically like stamps. And so you could get a team booklet, and in this booklet they have individual pages for throughout the team of 1 or 2 players on each page. And so it's basically a little stamp book, and you can collect these 4-in-1s and take out the individual stamps and lick it and stick it into your book and collect your team, or you could collect the whole league. And so it's interesting to see the interactive quality of it, and it's really neat in that regard. Now, each one of the quads is 4 different teams, so it's not like each quad is going to get you moving forward on one book, which means you got to collect the entire set. They are fixed, so that means that each card, each 4-in-1 card has the same players on it, so players don't show up on multiple cards. So if you're collecting the set, you're collecting 1/4 as many cards as the regular set, but every single card in the set has one of the cards in this, except obviously for the checklists. So it's a really neat card that they created, and it's one of the early parallel cards. It's not the first parallel set, but it is the only significant parallel set prior to basically 1990. And like 1990 Star Picks autographs, it was not really intended as a parallel set, it just kind of ended up that way. But it makes it a really interesting thing to discover and great cards to collect. But it's one of those little gems that you run into and you just go, that is cool. There's no other way to describe it. It is cool. It really is. So I love these cards, and I'd love to put it higher on the list, but basically these are really fun to find, but I love the others a lot more. And number 3 is the only basketball entry on this list, which is the 1969-70 Topps Rulers. These, technically they're not even rulers. They don't have actual measurements. So this is a scale, and the scale is so that you can see the different heights of different basketball players in the league. That's all that it is. The scale on the side is not set to an inch. It's set as, it's listed as a foot, but it's not laid out as inches. And even the bottom foot is cut off. And so this is all about graphics, and it's kind of an awkward creation, but it's so cool. It's just purely cool. That's all that there is to it. It looks like a neat idea, because it is a neat idea, and it's awkward to use. You can't store it anywhere. I don't know what I'm going to do with the ones that I have. I may put some of them up around here. I'm not sure. I want to do something with them because they're really exciting. They're really fresh. They're really new. They're really invigorating. And frankly, I'm jealous that we didn't get anything like this in the 1990s. It would have been kind of weird, but awesome. Really awesome. I keep wanting to say something about this, but what do I say? It's a ruler that's not a ruler. It's a card that you can't really work with. It's pure ideal fun for kids, and me too. Now for number 2, I do have to kind of justify why I have it here, because this is the 1967 baseball and 1968 football Topps posters. They're just posters. They're just straightforward, but the thing is that they're very, 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 very well made. They're great portraits of players expanded out in a large format, but at this time posters were very rare. In fact, for a kid, you'll have some magazines, and so you get some action shots from that, but how often do you get an actual portrait of a player? In the 1970s, posters became a lot more common, and then in the 1980s, that was the era for posters. So for those of us growing up, of course we had posters on the wall. That was natural. But for the 1960s, that was not natural. That was a very rare thing. And so for kids in the 1960s, you could get these little posters that were actually kind of decent size. They were pretty big because they fold out and take up a fair amount of space, but the image quality is great, and they didn't play any tricks with it, which is what I think really makes these posters work well. In the 1970s, they'd actually try to justify creating new posters, and they, whether they succeeded or not, they tried too much. And that was the thing. Here, it's just a poster. It's got a little baseball or football emblem with the player name, and they do have a set number for every single card. They do have a card number, but that was it. It was just getting straightforward down to a really good portrait shot of a player. And even today, these look fantastic. These are, they're images I would have put up on my wall. The trick is, I got to figure out, well, what player do I not care about from way back in the past do I want to put up on my wall? It's just that I want to put this up on the wall because it's such a great image. And that's what I love about it. It's a great gift to the 1960s, to kids at that time. It still looks great today. It looks fantastic. So I love it, and I want to put it here at number 2 because I think it is a little bit better than the rulers, but I mean, there's no question that it doesn't deserve number 1, because number 1 can be the only one that makes sense on this list, not because of the fact that 1962 Topps football was the number 1 on the other list, but because that was like the magical year where everything went right, because the set itself for 1962 Topps football was amazing, and the insert, probably even better. This was the year that they did their Topps bucks or dollars. Now in baseball, they would actually do it as a standalone. So you got your own packs with dollars in this. In 1962's football set, they actually did it as inserts into their packs. And so it fits on here. You know, the baseball fits kind of as an adjunct to that. But these are one of the most pure ideas that they ever created, and it's magnificent. These are not replica dollars. They're shrunk down. They have a different kind of paper stock, but they're little mock dollars, and that's the fun of it. They come in 3 different denominations, but each player has one of each of the 3 denominations. So you're not having parallels here. It's all straightforward, but some of the players come as a $1 bill, some of them come as a $5 bill, and some come as a $10 bill. It's a magnificent set. It's a magnificent idea. It is really, really beautiful. And this is the kind of thing where I, as a kid of the 80s, collector of the 90s, I look at this and I'm jealous of the 1960s, really jealous. I look at this and I'm frustrated because we didn't get anything like this. Why didn't we get this? My parents got this. I didn't get this. Why couldn't I have this? I wanted this, but they didn't give this to me, and it's not fair. So that's my attitude. I all of a sudden become a little teething 2-year-old, frustrated because even for all the amazing things we got in the 1990s, we didn't get anything as purely awesome as this. When I discovered these, the rulers were cool to discover, but when I discovered the Topps bucks, it really lit me up, and I realized, man, that's going to be fun to pursue. Now, it is a little bit tough with some of these because the really star players like Johnny Unitas, people love to go after, but just getting any one of these is really amazing. The detail on it is a lot of fun. They have the picture of the player in the front. They have a little write-up on the front, which is a cool thing they did, and they have the stadium on the front. And then on the back of it, they have the team logo. So the whole design is a very well thought out design. I look at this and I'm looking at the inserts of the 90s. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to top this. It is the most pure idea, and it's from right at the beginning of inserts. 1950s really didn't have inserts. It basically started in 1960. So this is essentially where inserts started. And they started at the top, and they had a few really good runs afterwards, but this is such a pure, amazing idea. So I got to stop just going on and around in circles and move on with my life. And so what I'm going to say is this. This is my list of the best inserts of the 1960s. And I'm very comfortable with this list. I'm pretty sure that this is going to hold up quite well. But heading down the road, this is the end of inserts. So I'm going to be looking at the best of and worst of the 1950s. I might do the 1940s cards, but that would be as just one list because there wasn't much from the 1940s. But unfortunately, we don't have anything more to discover with inserts moving backwards in times. It's going to have to be when I get around to the 1990s, which will be great. But otherwise, that's what I've got for this list. And let me know in the comments below what you think. Subscribe if you haven't done so already, and thank you very much for watching.